This is True News, the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help us God. Tuesday is Election Day in the USA. A Republican tsunami wave is expected to sweep lots of Democrats from public offices, from the U.S. Senate to city council seats. Doc and I will be in New York City Tuesday night in preparation for our first Holy Land tour of Jordan. A large group of True News supporters will meet Doc and me at JFK Airport on Wednesday morning. And listen to this, a Category 1 hurricane will arrive in Vero Beach Wednesday night. Unbelievable, a hurricane in November. We have this local article. This is from WPTV Television, West Palm Beach TV. Hurricane watch for Palm Beach County, Treasure Coast due to subtropical storm Nicole. Vero Beach is in the Treasure Coast, so we are right in the direct path of this storm that's coming in. And from today, it has gone from a subtropical storm to tropical storm to Category 1 hurricane all today.
And we're officially under a hurricane watch right now. It'll probably change into a warning here within the next 24 hours. And so we're making preparations here in the Treasure Coast. Whenever you have a hurricane watch, the good thing to do is just pretend like the hurricane's coming your way, and you don't take it for granted that you're going to miss it.
You go into action and board up your properties, and if you have hurricane shutters, you put those on your properties. I want to thank Nancy Dollard. God bless your heart, Nancy. A year or two ago.
Back in 2020.
Was it 2020?
Yes.
Nancy paid the entire bill to buy hurricane shutters for our church. And there was a lot of windows.
Yes.
I forget the number, but it was in the tens of thousands of dollars. And Nancy took care of the entire bill. And I want to thank you, Nancy, because you know how easy it was today just to secure the church building? It was just a matter of just closing the shutters.
Yes.
Just pulling them shut and locking them. Because before we had to put up plywood. And that was quite a task. And then we had to take the plywood down. Every window. We've got a lot of windows here and a lot of doors on this church building. And so 2 years ago, Nancy donated the funds to buy the hurricane shutters for our church, and we are very, very grateful. We thought about you today, Nancy.
Yes.
We thank the Lord for you today. It made life easy. Literally did it, what, Doc, 15, 20 minutes?
Yes. Have some minor stuff to do tomorrow, but most of the major things.
Compared to what used to be a full day?
Several days, really. Because we have a two-story facility here, and so it makes it very difficult putting plywood on, taking it off, and everything.
That's right.
And
so hey, pray for our families. We're all leaving here. There's a hurricane that's coming in. Now I'm going to be
couldn't be last week.
I know it had to be this week. It's unusual to have a hurricane in November.
Right.
What is it? What did you tell me? An 8%?
8% chance.
8% likelihood of a hurricane in November. So this is one of those unusual years. And but just pray for our families that all will be well. Doc has his family here to be concerned about. Likewise, I do. My wife, Susan, will be staying with our son and his family. And so we have impact-resistant glass on our home, so I don't have to put up shutters. But I want her out of the house, okay? We do have a creek that runs through our property. And right now, the rain projection is 8 inches for this area. Right. So that's a lot of rain. And basically from, it'll be all day Wednesday and, throughout Thursday. The heaviest, I think, is going to be after midnight, Wednesday night, Thursday morning. I think is when it's arriving, or is it?
It's what I understand.
Yeah. But the rain will start tomorrow night.
Right.
It will start tomorrow. The outer bands will be coming in. So let's pray that this hurricane moves away from the Treasure Coast, moves away from Florida. Florida does not need another hurricane right now. We have a lot of people in Florida that are without homes, without electricity, that was weeks ago, Doc, and we tend to quickly forget that there's a lot of destruction in South Florida.
Yes. You don't hear much about it now because we're all in the election cycle and everything, and the news is all centered around that. But there was massive destruction around the Tampa, Clearwater,
Yes.
Naples area, and inland as well. And so,
So we-
a lot of people still, some without power here in parts of the state. And so it's hard to believe it's been that long. And so,
We don't need another hurricane. Doc and I and our production team will be. We're actually leaving tomorrow to go to New York City. It's the only way, and I'm glad, Doc. If we had not booked that flight for tomorrow, if we had waited to Wednesday, we would not be able to meet our team, the TruNews team. We would have been stranded here if our flight,
likely,
because
yes.
there will be no flights leaving on Wednesday.
Yes, you're right. So
Well, the Lord was in that one for us to get there early. But we will be flying to New York tomorrow, and we will do TruNews tomorrow night from New York City, and then we will meet all of our TruNews partners who are going with us on Thursday. Wednesday morning, and then we will be arriving in Amman on Thursday morning. It's a long flight. We have stopover in Istanbul, Turkey. And we arrive in Amman, I think, around 10 a.m. Thursday, which, let's see, Amman is 8 hours ahead.
So it'll be about 2 in the morning here.
Yeah.
So,
okay.
But
so pray for our safety.
We're looking forward to meeting all the people that are joining us on this trip. This is going to be a fabulous trip for us, and you're going to see things that will absolutely amaze you, and you'll learn a lot. And
it's going to be very, very good time.
It's going to be a great time of fellowship too.
I sent an email to everybody going on the trip. Please check your email. I sent you a list of things that's important, some really important things. The number one important thing is, well, first of all, 2 important things. Make sure you take your passport. Number 2, you have to have a QR code to board the plane.
Right.
And the instructions are in the email that I sent to you how to get the QR code. It's you don't have to donate DNA or anything like that. You just
takes about 2 minutes to fill out the form.
Fill out the form and then submit it, and then have a copy of that QR code either printed out or downloaded on your phone, and you need it at the airport to get on the flight.
Yes.
Hey, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people have ordered the Fauci Elf. This little guy is going to be in a lot of Christmas stockings this December. We're very excited about the response to the Fauci Elf, and this idea was inspired by Governor DeSantis, and I hope the hurricane coming in tomorrow night obviously it's going to dampen voter turnout in Florida tomorrow.
Maybe, but we have early voting here, and the Republicans have outpaced the Democrats here in Florida in the early voting.
That's good to know. That's good to know. Well, the Fauci Elf, it says right here, "I love Wuhan," and on the back right here on his behind it says "owned by China," and the Fauci Elf has a number of things that he says. Well, I don't know if we have the website. We can put it up there that you can look at. There you go. If you go to the TruNews.com, there's a banner at the top. Click it. It takes you to this page. And if you scroll down, I'll let you hear the things that the Fauci Elf says. Can we play the sound bites if we have that? Maybe we don't.
I am science. Vaccinate, vaccinate. Social distancing forever. Hey, don't hug your mother.
Hey, does that sound like Fauci? I think we did a pretty good job.
Yes. So
we did it. We had fun at that too, trying to find somebody to do a Fauci impersonation.
It has to have the right sound to it, and we listened to a lot of them.
We did, and then we found the right impersonator. So you can get your Fauci Elf. You can order 1, 3, 5. Well, I think we got the selection of 1, 2, 3, and 5. And some of you are ordering a lot. and obviously you're going to be giving them to a lot of people. They will be shipping in early December, and I think we've placed an order. I don't think we're going to place a second order, so get on that list, and your elf or elves will be shipped in the order that they come in right now. So you want to get in there as soon as you can, and if we run out, I'll let you know in the coming weeks if we're getting low on the number of elves that we've ordered. But right now, you can still get your Fauci elf ordered for this Christmas. Let's take a look at the news headlines. There is a new Hunter Biden scandal that has broke today, one day before the election. This was published exclusively by the Daily Mail in London. Here we go again. You got to go outside of America to find out what's going on in America. And the Daily Mail said Joe was centered on the returns in the family coffers. Whistleblower claims Hunter and then Vice President Biden were part of a group called to discuss online gambling venture in Latin America. The president talked like he was chairman of the board.
Yeah, and on that 2012 conference call, Rick, it involved then Vice President Joe Biden, his son Hunter, Hunter's business partner Jeff Cooper, the late Senator Harry Reid, and his son Key Reid as well. And we actually have a portion of that interview that the Daily Mail did. Let's listen to this.
So explain for me what this conference call was all about.
I was involved with Ocho. There was a conference call I overheard incidentally. On that conference call were Joe Biden, Hunter Biden, Jeff Cooper, Harry Reid, and Key Reid. The reason that they were talking about it is that this is an internet gaming and gambling company. What they were specifically talking about was, how the business development was happening. They were joyous that they had just gotten an agreement tacitly with the government of Peru for a license. The thing that was outstanding, or obvious more than anything else, is Joe Biden was directly involved in this business activity. He wasn't passive, he was talking about it. If I had to describe him, he was like a member of the board of directors. Maybe because of his prominent position, I would even describe him as the chairman of the board. And this nonsense that he's not involved in his son's activities is exactly that. He's flying, Hunter all over the world for his compromised business deals. And why would he be flying, a 40-something son around the world to pursue his business deals if he wasn't involved?
Well, we have some quotes from the Daily Mail article, but the story is so extensive that we just don't have time to go through the entire Daily Mail report. I would encourage you to go to dailymail.com. It's at the top of their page right now as of today, and read the entire article. Doc and I are just going to give you the highlights of it so that you get an idea of the depth of the corruption that we find, once again, the Biden family up to their eyeballs in a corrupt business deal. So, Doc, let's take a look at the Daily Mail article.
Well, and these are quotes from Daily Mail. Joe Biden was involved in his son Hunter's foreign business deals while he was vice president, a new whistleblower with direct knowledge claims. Now, this whistleblower has identified themselves to Senate investigators, but asked to remain anonymous for fear of reprisals. The informant says they were party to a 2012 conference call involving then Vice President Joe Biden, his son Hunter, his business partner Jeff Cooper, late Senate Majority Leader Harry Reid, and his son Key Reid, who was also in business with Hunter.
Doc, with the election taking place tomorrow,
right,
and all serious projections are showing that the Republicans taking the House and the Senate.
Right.
My gut feeling on this with the House, the Republicans will probably pick up 30 to 40 seats. It could be a blowout like 1994.
It could be worse than that.
Yeah, I mean,
So,
it's possible. But I think at a minimum, the Republicans will pick up 30 House seats. In the Senate, I think they're going to pick up 3 to 5 Senate seats. And you've got some very competitive races right now, Doc, that they didn't expect, like New Hampshire.
how suddenly that became a horse race.
General
didn't it?
Bolduc is leading now in New Hampshire. Nevada is another one. And then in the governorships, there's going to be a number of Democrat governors that are going to get defeated.
Big shift this year.
New York, I think, is going to be one. I think Lee Zeldin is going to defeat Kathy Hochul there. And even in Oregon, I think there's going to be a Republican elected there. But where am I going? The winds are changing. The winds are changing, Doc. And there's going to be a strong shift to the right on Wednesday morning. It's going to be a different landscape. This stuff, this corruption of the Bidens, is coming to an end.
Right.
The Republicans will be able to impeach Joe Biden in January or February. They will be able to begin impeachment. They're not going to impeach him, the first week in January, but the impeachment process will begin in January.
Yes.
First, it will be the investigations, and then it will lead up to an impeachment indictment against him. I think at some point, we've said here before, Joe Biden will not survive after the November election. Politically, he will not survive. And I think they're going to have him, the Democrats are going to tell Joe, it's time to go.
I agree with you. I think
You've got to go. Look, if this goes, you got Harry Reid. Of course, he's dead now. But Harry Reid was involved in these corrupt deals. And Harry Reid was involved in other corrupt deals with the Chinese. Once they open this door and they start looking at crooked deals that the Bidens were involved in, there are other Democrats that are presently in power who are vulnerable.
Right. And they're going to want to close that door.
They're going to close that door as quickly as possible, and they're going to tell Joe, you got to resign. Simply say your doctor has told you to resign. Then we're going to have the laughing hyena.
You mean the Vice President Kamala Harris?
The Vice President, Kamala Harris, whose name in Hindi means the devil. That's what it means, the devil. So we're going to get the devil woman in the White House. How long is she going to last? I don't know. I can't imagine they're going to nominate her in 2024. I can't imagine they want her to be in the White House in 2024. I would pay attention to who her vice president becomes. Whoever becomes her vice president most likely is the Democratic nominee, the one they're going to move up the ladder. Things are going to change very soon, like coming this week. This is going to be a huge shift to the right.
And this information that we're sharing today is just going to be part of that push by the Republicans to bring the Biden family to accountability.
Well, you see in this article, the Daily Mail said the whistleblower identified the people in this scandal to U.S. Senate investigators.
Right. So it's already in play, isn't it?
Yes.
So, well, the spring 2012 call was about Hunter, Key, and Jeff's new venture into online gambling in Latin America, adding that Joe Biden was active on the call discussing details of the business and appeared to be involved as a silent partner. The whistleblower said he wasn't passive, he was talking about it. If I had to describe him, he was like a member of the board of directors. In a statement to Daily Mail, Cooper denied ever having a call about any of his companies with the president or late senator, saying it was a complete fabrication. What else is he going to say? On the alleged call, Joe Biden asked about revenue projections when the company's software would be ready and congratulated Cooper on securing gambling licenses from the Peruvian government. With the direct observations I had, it's obvious Joe Biden was participating in the business, they said. The anonymous informant's decision to come forward with their bombshell claims within 24 hours of the election is set to send Washington, D.C. into turmoil. Now, you may be asking, well, why hasn't he come forward yet? Well, they told the Daily Mail that it was not until this weekend that they'd been able to obtain a security detail for their family, giving them the confidence to finally come forward.
So this man had to get bodyguards for his entire family before he could tell Senate investigators what he knew about the Biden family.
Had he been threatened before? We don't know, do we? But more than likely, at some point, he probably had been.
The only time you feel threatened is like when you're dealing with a criminal gang.
Right.
So the Bidenistas, they operate like a mafia gang. And this man's afraid of them. Let's read on.
So the whistleblower was involved in one of Hunter's joint ventures that conducted energy deals, invested in technology companies, and even launched a series of online gambling platforms. One offshoot was Hunter and Cooper's online gambling company, Ocho Global. He had operations in Mexico, Peru, Uruguay, and Argentina. An April 2011 email from Cooper included a valuation of the business at around $30 million. Emails from Hunter's abandoned laptop showed Cooper discussing the business with Hunter and Key Reed and revealed they were seeking licenses to roll out the Ocho brand across Latin America. Source claims they were part of a spring 2012 conference call that included Hunter, Cooper, and Key. The source was surprised when they heard then VP Joe Biden and then Senate Majority Leader Harry Reid had also joined the alleged call. Now, the whistleblower said that both Joe Biden and Harry Reid were vocal in the spring 2012 conversation, with Joe asking lots of questions about how much and when the business would pay out. Harry Reid asked whether or not the Peruvian government had been taken care of, the source said. Cooper replied that it had all been taken care of. The Peruvian cooperation was in place. That's when Joe Biden said, "That's what we need to be to hear more of, boys. We need to be making progress," or something like that. Just an effusive comment that was endorsing that he was happy that things were proceeding.
Well, gee, Doc, what do you think they meant? What do you think Harry Reid meant when he said, was the Peruvian government taken care of?
Well, were the payments made? Were the bribes taken care of and everything? Yeah, I mean, come on.
Yeah.
I was born at night, but it wasn't last night.
Yeah, remember when Harry got beat up?
Yes, the black and blue and everything.
And they said he did it on his home fitness machine.
Yes, yeah.
And then the same week, his brother got beat up, and they said he was in an auto accident by himself. In a one-man auto accident. But he was beat up too.
Well, you may think to yourself, well, now that's a pretty broad spectrum of businesses to be involved with. You're involved with energy over here, but gambling over here. I mean, there's not much mixing between the two, but what gambling does give you the opportunity to do is global laundering of any money that you make anywhere in the world.
Yeah, you got it, Doc.
So, especially if there's online gambling that's involved, and Ocho Digital did that. That's why they had the software and everything.
In another country.
Yes.
Outsource your corruption,
So,
like Ukraine. So the Bidens are pros at this. No, Harry Reid was deep into it, and you know the Clintons, and I think Obama's involved in this stuff. He's just slick enough that he hasn't left fingerprints on any of it. I'm not convinced yet that he's not the chairman, the big guy. I still don't see Joe Biden being that smart. I really don't. Obama, yeah, I do. He's slick.
Well, of course, Harry Reid, he's from Nevada. Lots of gambling connections there in Nevada. And he was heavily involved in the development of Macau with the Chinese. And so...
and he was selling land in Nevada to the Chinese.
That's right. So lots of connections there. Now, according to the whistleblower, Mr. Biden had all sorts of questions about other stuff. Do we need to be doing other things with government officials? What do we need to do to get this moving ahead? He asked about what the revenue projections were and how soon the Ocho Rio software could be demoed. He was asking all detailed operational questions. He wouldn't be doing that if he didn't know about it. He seemed to be more interested than just a casual interest. With the direct observations I had, this is according to the whistleblower, it's obvious Joe Biden was participating in the business, they said. Now, though the source could not recall the revenue projections given in the alleged call, emails from Hunter Biden's laptop show Cooper had Ocho Global valued at $30 million in April 2011, and its Argentina operation alone at $10 million in March 2012. And the whistleblower said they had shied away from reporting the vice president and Senate leader's alleged involvement in Ocho to the FBI because they did not trust the Bureau, and claimed their suspicions were confirmed when they saw reports by Senator Chuck Grassley that senior agents had tried to suppress the federal investigation into Hunter Biden. Who are you going to go to? The FBI? The FBI seems to be operating as a personal security service for the Bidens lately, the source said.
Wow.
And he pretty much
Isn't that a
nailed
sad
that.
commentary? The Federal Bureau of Investigation is really a protective service for a criminal gang. That's a sad commentary on the state of this country right now, Doc. That means the crooks are running, even law enforcement. The criminals are wearing the badges. And when crime and corruption reaches that stage that the criminals wear the badges and carry the guns, then the country is so deeply corrupted. I don't know how you ever cleaned it up. I mean, look at Mexico. How would you ever clean up the cartel infiltration of the Mexican government?
Because you can't get rid of all the cartels, can you?
No, and if there is an honest Mexican politician, they kill him. They just assassinate him. Could be a mayor or a governor. Nobody dares stand up against the cartels. America's headed in the same direction. We're dangerously close to that level of corruption right now.
Would you say that we're a criminal democracy right now?
A criminal democracy. A criminal democracy. We're not. First of all, we're
not a democracy.
We never were a democracy.
We're supposed to be a constitutional republic.
We're a criminal corporation. The United States government is a criminal corporation. That's what you've got. All right, and they're mafia families. They're just different families all competing to get their grubby hands on as much money as they can get.
Right.
And while we're talking about criminals and grubby hands, a reporter from, what is it? Is it One More News?
Well, that's who posted
Juan.
this on Twitter.
Okay.
So I'm not sure who
was
the actual reporter
I found it on Daily Caller, and somebody got up close enough to Bill Clinton and asked him the question about his involvement with Jeffrey Epstein. Let's watch it.
Any comments on the alleged allegation of your connection with Jeffrey Epstein? No.
I think the evidence is clear.
Yes.
Yes, Bill, you got that right.
Yes.
You were on the plane, and nobody's asked you why.
Yeah, so that was by Juan Moran of Real America's Voice.
Oh,
So,
Real America's Voice.
Yeah,
Okay, good. I wasn't sure who it was.
Yeah.
Wall Street Journal reporting Facebook parent Meta preparing to notify employees of large-scale layoffs this week.
This week. This on the tail of all the other high-tech companies last week that were reporting layoffs of anywhere from 10 to 25%. And so
I got to take my hanky out and cry for Zuckerberg. Things aren't going well there in Metaland, Doc. You've got Twitter that has laid off 4,000 people. I read today in one of the Korean newspapers that the Twitter office in Seoul is a ghost town.
no kidding.
They've
Wow.
closed it down.
And I know they did the same thing in India, too. They've pretty much just closed down all operations. They were the first one to get hit last Friday morning. And so it was, it pretty much emptied out the building, they said.
Wow. So just think about this. 2 weeks ago, the little lefty snowflakes who had all this power to delete your posts, your comments, your videos. They ruled the world. I mean, they were censors, Doc, with the power to censor a former president of the United States.
Yes.
They could take down U.S. senators. They could take down esteemed medical doctors if they questioned the COVID vaccines. They had this enormous power 2 weeks ago. And now they don't even have a job. Things changed.
That's right.
Things changed in a matter of days. They're out of work. A lot more of this is coming. The tech companies are in trouble. And the people who were censoring us, you and me, are going to be out of work. And so enjoy the reprieve. Enjoy the reprieve.
Because it won't last forever.
No, but it's going to last for years. It's going to last for this crisis is not going to go away in a couple of months. This financial crisis is going to be on for quite some time. They'll have to bring in artificial intelligence as quickly as possible to censor everybody. That's the direction they'll go.
And, well, this is their first opportunity to be able to try out their artificial intelligence,
Yes,
then, isn't it?
That's right. You saw what happened over the weekend with Elon Musk. The big advertisers were quitting.
Right.
He said he had a massive reduction in advertising revenue. And then over the weekend, Elon Musk tweeted on his own platform, Twitter, and threatened basically a mutual destruction, a nuclear Armageddon of advertisers. And what it was, he said he was going to name and shame them. And he was going to go to DEFCON 1 and name and shame the major advertisers who quit. And he said the public needs to know who these people are and the pressure that they're putting on him. I'm like, this is amazing. Whoever imagined Elon Musk would be the defender of free speech in America? But for right now, he's doing it.
For now.
And I'm not going to criticize him. I'm going to encourage him because he is getting hammered by the left, and he's not backing down. And he fired 4,000 of them. He's closing offices. He's threatening to name and shame the big corporations that are pressuring him.
And one other radical move is he's monetizing verification on Twitter.
Yes.
By making verification a paid service, like $7.99 a month. And
He also said if he catches you doing a fake account, you're banned forever. Because what was happening over the weekend, a lot of leftists were shutting down their official Twitter accounts.
Right.
And then coming back on with an alias, an anonymous name. And he said, if I catch you, you're banned forever. So he's playing hardball with these people, but he realized that the left does not allow anybody to express their views.
No.
Nobody. You can express your views, but watch what happens Wednesday, because a lot of lefties are going to be out of public office on Wednesday. And the tide is going to change on Wednesday.
So when are the leftists, the libtards, at what point tomorrow night are they going to say that the election was stolen from them?
At what hour?
Yes. 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock?
Well, Joe Biden said today it could be days until we have the election results. Where we're at, Doc, is that the corruption is so deep that nobody has any confidence in the elections anymore.
Right. Isn't that sad?
Yes. So the left, they destroyed the American system of voting. They've destroyed it. And now nobody real. I mean, when you go, did you vote yet?
Yes.
Yeah, I did too. Do you really know if your vote matters? I don't know anymore.
I really don't have confidence in the electronic voting machines. I would rather just,
Me too.
everybody just, let's just hand count. At least then, it was hard to cheat.
Right.
But with the machines, it's easy to cheat because you don't know what's going on
That's
in
right.
the machine.
You have no idea, or at least go to blockchain. Blockchain would end this corruption. But old-fashioned paper ballots,
It worked good for a long time.
it did. And crooks had to really work hard at cheating.
Right.
So, but we'll see.
I mean, they cheated with the punch machines, and they cheated with now with the electronic machines. What concerns me is there's software within each of the devices where they say, well, it's not connected to the internet, but then we find USB Wi-Fi plugs in machines, and they say, oh well, that's to transmit the results when the election isn't over yet.
Right. Well, if you can transmit one way, something can be transmitted the other way. So. Tomorrow night, Tuesday night, so Doc and I, as I told you, we will be in New York City, so we will do tomorrow night's True News from New York City. I think what we'll do is a short version, around 4 or 5 p.m., probably 5 p.m., and then most likely we'll come back later in the evening, maybe 9, 10 p.m., and just do another short update, and we'll see what the election results look like. At some point, we got to go to bed because we got to
get up the next day.
Got a flight in the morning. Let's get back to the news. Blackouts in Ukraine. France 24. Zelensky warns of mass attacks on the Ukrainian power grid. And I've got this report from France 24 that gives us some information on how serious the blackouts are in Ukraine, because the Russians have really pounded the electrical grid in Ukraine. Let's watch it.
Let's bring in our Kyiv correspondent, Gulliver Cragg. Gulliver, what's the situation like there this Monday?
Well, people living in Kyiv kind of breathed a sigh of relief this Monday morning, because 3 out of the previous 4 Mondays had been marked by massive Russian attacks on electricity infrastructure across Ukraine and targeting the Kyiv region in particular. This morning there were none. The sirens did not go off, and as far as I know, no attacks of that type have been reported today. But the electricity system is still really struggling. The utilities companies say that they need to overshoot their planned blackouts by 32%, which means they already have these planned rolling blackouts where people are informed about when they're not going to have electricity. There's going to be around a third longer time without electricity than you're actually told in the planning. Actually, Ukrainians have been complaining that the companies don't really stick to this timetable. Clearly, they're struggling with the repairs. They have said, the electricity companies, that they are running out of spare parts and very much need donations of certain parts that can be used for these rapid repairs coming from their Western allies. And meanwhile, of course, there are these warnings that today's sigh of relief might be short-lived. Volodymyr Zelensky and other Ukrainian officials believe that Russia is planning more attacks, and Russia is also apparently buying new ballistic missiles from Iran, which the Ukrainian president could be used for these attacks. At the same time, of course, Ukraine has been receiving more and more air defense equipment. Just today, the defense minister Oleksiy Reznikov announced that NASAM systems, these are made in Norway and the United States, were already in Ukraine, new ones that is. We believe that means the total number of systems is up to 8. And Ukraine has also received today the Italian-made Aspide air defense systems, which they are hoping will help to protect against this campaign of Russian strikes against Ukraine's electricity infrastructure, which pretty much everyone in the Ukrainian government seems to believe is very likely to continue because it hasn't yet achieved its goals. Despite these strikes, despite the power cuts, despite the problems, nevertheless the system is, in the words of the energy minister, stable. People do at least have electricity for some of the day, and the number of regions of Ukraine that are affected by these rolling power cuts is now down to only 6.
Well, to give you an idea, did you want to say something?
Oh, you noticed that reporter was wearing a pretty heavy coat.
Yes.
It's getting cold in Ukraine.
It is. It is. Winter has arrived already.
Yes.
In Ukraine, and the suffering is going to be it is going to be intense this winter for the Ukrainian people. This whole war is just unnecessary. It did not have to happen. It simply didn't have to happen. And powerful people used the Ukrainian population as they just used them for the purpose of jabbing at Russia. And it's just sad to see this taking place. The New York Times reported that Kiev is planning to, listen to this, evacuate 3 million people.
That's right. So as they struggle to maintain in an electricity grid heavily damaged by Russian missiles, officials in the Ukrainian capital Kiev say they have begun planning for a once unthinkable possibility, a complete blackout that would require the evacuation of the city's approximately 3 million remaining citizens. And remember, millions have already left Ukraine.
Well, where do they go, Doc? Because the Russians have attacked power plants all over the country. Where do you take 3 million people?
They only, the West
Poland?
got them. Yes, that's the only place you can go. And so the West got us into this mess, so now it's the West problem, right? So the situation is already so dire, with 40% of Ukraine's energy infrastructure damaged or destroyed, that municipal workers are setting up 1,000 heating shelters that can double as bunkers, while engineers try to fix bombed-out power stations without the needed equipment. Now, we understand that if Russia continues such attacks, we may lose our entire electricity system. And that's from Roman Tachuk, the director of security for the Kiev municipal government. And he said that in an interview. Officials in the capital have been told that they would be likely to have at least 12 hours notice that the grid was on the verge of failure. If it reaches that point, we will start informing people and requesting them to leave. Now, if there's no power, there will be no water and there will be no sewage, he said. That's why currently the government and city administration are taking all possible measures to protect our power supply system. Now, as winter approaches, the city is preparing 1,000 heating shelters that can also protect civilians from Russian missiles. Most are inside educational facilities, but the authorities have asked that their precise locations not be reported lest they become easy targets.
Doc, we're looking at a city with millions of residents, no electricity, no public water, no public sanitation in the wintertime.
Right.
And no place to take these people inside Ukraine, because all of Ukraine is dark.
Right.
So the only place for them to go is Poland. So Poland will be flooded with 3 million refugees.
And that's just from Kiev.
Yes.
That's not counting the rest of the country.
When do the people of Poland start to get fed up with it, get fed up with the war? How much of this can people take? That they're dealing with refugees, they're dealing with outrageously high prices for oil and gas and gasoline and natural gas. I mean, all of Europe is suffering. And the winter really hasn't kicked in yet. It's just knocking out the door. And you're going to have 3 million refugees. And the way this sounds, Doc, you're talking about a 12-hour notice? You're going to move 3 million people in 12 hours?
There's just no way.
No, there's chaos. The first snows start coming in.
Yeah, I mean, it'll be a humanitarian crisis, the scale of which we can only imagine right now. I mean,
NATO brought this on to the Ukrainian people. They did it. They ought to be blamed for it. They ought to be, well, the world should remember what NATO did, because they forced Russia into this fight. There is no way Russia wanted this fight. I've watched this for 20 years, and I watched the change come in 2011, 12, and 13, when Obama and Hillary Clinton and John McCain organized a revolution in Ukraine, overthrew the government, brought in the Nazis. Then we end up with Zelensky, and each time the Russians kept saying, we're not going to permit it, we're not going to permit it, we're not going to permit it, until we got to 2020 and they said, that's it, we're done. We're not talking to you people anymore. Because the ruling class of the West, Doc, they just push and push and push and push.
because they think they can.
They can, and they get away with it because nobody pushes back. The Russians push back, and they weren't prepared for this. So I want to jump down, the guys in the control room, I want to jump down to number 33. because this was from the Washington Post, U.S. privately asked Ukraine to show it's open to negotiate with Russia. There you go, Doc.
Yes.
It's changed.
You're right, Rick.
It's changed.
So the Biden administration is privately encouraging Ukraine's leaders to signal an openness to negotiate with Russia and drop their public refusal to engage in peace talks unless President Vladimir Putin is removed from power. And that's according to people familiar with the discussions. Now, the request by American officials is not aimed at pushing Ukraine to the negotiating table, these people said. Rather, they called it a calculated attempt to ensure the government in Kiev maintains the support of other nations facing constituencies wary of fueling a war for many years to come. Now, the discussions illustrate how complex the Biden administration's position on Ukraine has become, as U.S. officials publicly vowed to support Kiev with massive sums of aid for as long as it takes, while hoping for a resolution to the conflict that over the past 8 months has taken a punishing toll on the world economy and triggered fears of nuclear war.
Okay, so
they've admitted it.
Yes. We're at that stage where they're now saying, you know what, the Russians probably will use nukes. We better back off. They are going to use the nukes.
We're crashing the world economy over this.
Yes. And there's backlash in America. Right. Inflation is out of control. And they're going to pay a price tomorrow.
Yes.
They are going to pay a price tomorrow for the inflation. And people are mad. You know, I've not seen the I've not seen the American electorate this angry in many, many years. And when voters are mad, incumbents lose.
That's right.
And the ruling party loses. People go to the polls to get revenge. And they're going to take revenge out on the Democrats tomorrow. And so Biden and the Democrats know this is not going well. We're taking a beating. We're going to lose control of the House and the Senate. We're not going to be able to get our massive Ukrainian military spending bills through,
right? Because
the Republicans are going to start saying, wait a minute, we're spending too much money. There's no accountability.
Well, I would say their constituencies are saying
yes,
that.
Yes.
Okay, and they're responding to their constituencies.
Precisely.
If no one had said anything, they'd be spending money like a drunken sailor.
You're absolutely right. But Republican voters are tired of the money being spent.
Right.
All right. They're looking at headlines: $40 billion to Zelensky, $10 billion to Zelensky. And then they go to fill up their gas tank, and they're putting $100 in to fill up the tank, and they're going, but Zelensky just got $40 billion, and I have to pay for it. And people are mad right now. They're going to the grocery store and looking at the, you know, a few bags of groceries and a couple $100.
Right, and Zelensky made that money working from home doing Zoom calls.
Yeah.
So
and people are getting fed up with it, and they're like, why are we doing this for Zelensky? What's this all about? And now they're going to nuke us. The Russians are going to nuke us for Zelensky. And people are starting to, they've reached where, you know, we say we've had a belly full of it. And that's where a lot of voters are at. And the politicians know it. They know it, Doc. And so they're tired of Zelensky naming and shaming them for not giving him more money. Because that's what he does.
Right.
If you don't give him money, he does another Zoom call, and he then badmouths you because you didn't give him enough money or enough missiles. They know that this has got to stop. Just on the money, it's got to stop, because the U.S. government is spending billions, tens of billions of dollars it doesn't have. How much have we spent in Ukraine in 1 year?
Oh, it's depending on who you ask. If you add the humanitarian aid, and just from the U.S. now we're talking about, because we do 90% of it, it's right at $27 billion.
Yeah, I suspect it's a lot more than that.
I do too.
That sounds pretty low. But Europe's hurting.
Oh, I mean, yeah, it's much bigger than that.
Europe is, you know, the winter is going to come in very hard in Europe, right? Electricity bills are going to be in the thousands of dollars, $5,000 to $10,000 a month for electricity in your home. How will people pay that, Doc? They can't.
No, they can't.
They won't have heating fuel. They won't have natural gas. Businesses are closing in Germany and other European countries. They're not going to keep doing this for Zelensky. There's going to be payback in European elections also. People are going to start putting things together, going, hey, you politicians, you're the ones who caused this.
Have you seen the crowds in the streets in different European countries? And so, and it's going to start getting cold in those streets pretty soon.
Very soon. Yeah, you could see a revolution in some European countries right now. They will have to shut down this war. And so publicly they're going to say, we've got plenty of money for Zelensky. We've got tanks, we've got missiles, but privately they're telling Zelensky, your credit line is being cut.
Yes.
You got to get something worked out. And Zelensky is now got to move 3 million people out of Kiev. What do you think the Russians are saying right now, reading the New York Times? All we got to do is just keep bombing their power plants.
Right. And there will be nobody left in Ukraine. They'll all leave.
Yes.
And we just take over the country. There was another phrase that in that article, Rick, that popped up that I don't know if you caught or not. This is number 38 for control. Ukraine fatigue is a real thing for some of our partners.
That's what we're talking about.
Said one U.S. official who, like others interviewed for this report, spoke on the condition of anonymity to discuss sensitive conversations between Washington and Kiev.
Ukraine fatigue.
So now you're hearing it now. There was a point in time in the Vietnam War too, Rick, where you had Vietnam fatigue, where people, where the general population said, we just got to end this thing. Okay. Of course, we had more direct involvement there. We had body bags coming home.
It was around 68 when Richard Nixon ran, and he said he had a secret plan to end the war. And he couldn't tell anybody because it was a secret.
Right.
But people voted for Nixon because
believing he could deliver.
They were desperate, and they said, we'll elect him and find out what's in his secret plan. And he did shut it down over a couple of years. But you're right, people had reached a point where they were tired of it. And this one, fatigue has set in a lot faster.
You don't see quite as many Ukrainian flags on social media right now. And so it's just not in people's mind anymore.
No.
It's like, okay, that was the thing right now. What's the next thing now that we need to be looking at?
Right now is being able to afford groceries.
Right.
It's being able to keep up with the inflation. It's hoping that you keep your job when you're reading about tens of thousands of layoffs. That's where people are at right now, Doc. And they're not worried about Zelensky. And if he keeps it up, in a couple more months, the public mood will turn against them viciously. And that's where they're at right now. And the climate of the country is going to change tomorrow. You're going to see a major shift to the right tomorrow. And fiscal responsibility is going to become a new term that the Republicans haven't said for decades.
That's true.
Fiscal responsibility. How about balance the budget? You can start hearing about a balanced budget amendment again. Haven't heard that since the days of Ronald Reagan. But there's going to be a major change. Zelensky's war is going to come to an end because he's not going to have anybody left in his country. How can you be the president of a country that has no population?
Everybody left. We're not sticking around here anymore.
Zelensky, the last man out of Kiev, turn the lights out.
Oh, they'll already be off.
The lights are already out. Let's see. What do we want to look at? 39, Yonhap News. North Korea threatens to take overwhelming military steps against South Korea and the United States.
Rick, over the past 7 days, North Korea has fired a total of 80 missiles towards either the sea or toward the demilitarized zone in with South Korea. And this is all in response to the extended drills that the U.S. and South Korea have been maintaining here over the past few days. And so,
let me ask you, you lived in Seoul, South Korea as a missionary. If you were there now and North Korea was behaving like this, would you be thinking, I probably should get out of here?
As a foreigner, yes. But, a lot of people in Seoul, Rick, have become so desensitized to all these warnings over decades. I mean, you've got 3 generations that have been told North Korea is going to blow them up. And it's like you become callous to the news and everything.
But as a foreigner living there,
Yes.
if you were there now, would you be thinking, it's probably is the time to go back home?
Yeah, oh yes, definitely. Especially reports like this weekend. They're firing missiles in this direction. They had 500 aircraft in the air over the weekend, Rick. North Korea did.
500?
500. That's,
wait a minute, last Friday was 180.
yes, total aircraft, they said now is 500. So,
This is like Pearl Harbor stuff here.
and only a few have to get through.
Yes.
You don't have to have all 500
Right.
get through, because South Korea missiles and U.S. missiles will take a whole bunch of planes and stuff out, and some of them are older, planes. But the fact of the matter is, any one could do significant damage, especially if there was a nuclear device involved. And so,
Yeah, we've got a video report produced by Yonhap News Agency in Seoul. Let's watch it.
After firing an unprecedented number of missiles this week, North Korea seems to have one major provocation still left unused in its locker this year: a nuclear test. And as we'll see, tensions are reaching such a height that the security atmosphere is both serious and unpredictable. We've been anticipating this all year, a 7th ever North Korean nuclear test and a first since 2017. The US has warned again this week that it could happen at any time. South Korean intelligence agrees that the North has completed preparations for a nuclear test, having previously predicted that it may happen by November 7th, before US midterm elections. And a nuclear test would seal this period's status as one of the biggest escalations on the peninsula since the Korean War, as both Koreas fired missiles across their disputed maritime border, while the North again violated a 2018 military agreement Thursday night by firing artillery shells into an inter-Korean buffer zone, as well as launching 3 more short-range ballistic missiles toward the East Sea. Now, we should say North Korea likes to be unpredictable. 2 of its previous nuclear tests took place over the winter, in January and February, and while it may be ready to conduct another, it may decide to wait. Pyongyang's more immediate priority may be another intercontinental ballistic missile test, as analysts believe Wednesday's ICBM launch by the North failed. Back in March, North Korea quickly followed up a failed ICBM test with another one that was viewed as a success. North Korea is no doubt using missile tests to develop its weapon capabilities. A nuclear test would be conducted for the same reason. It's also clear the North's reacting to joint South Korean-US military drills. Following that ICBM test, the Allies decided to extend this week's Vigilant Storm exercise involving around 240 aircraft, including stealth fighter jets, before a senior North Korean official released a statement claiming the irresponsible decision is pushing the situation to an uncontrollable phase. Normally, the Allies would rely on the UN Security Council to strengthen sanctions, but China and Russia have already blocked that action this year. Taking matters into their own hands, South Korea and the US have spelled out their strategy in their latest annual Security Consultative Meeting communique, after a meeting of their defense chiefs. The joint statement outlines specific categories of extended deterrence, referring to American commitment to defend South Korea with a full range of nuclear, conventional, and missile defense capabilities, reassuring Seoul with a NATO-like commitment. And for the first time, the SCM statement includes the threat by US Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin that any nuclear attack by the North against the US or its allies and partners will result in the end of the Kim Jong-un regime. That will anger Pyongyang. Don't expect North Korea to back down. On the contrary, expect a response. Perhaps a nuclear test.
So, Doc, that Yonhap News story was produced last Friday,
Yes.
and they were saying that possibly a nuclear test by November 7th, which is today. So the day's not over. Election day is tomorrow. So there is still a window here that, we could wake up tomorrow and find out that North Korea tested a nuclear warhead during the night while we slept. It's a possibility. But things are extremely tense on the Korean Peninsula right now, and it wouldn't take much to ignite a fire. It's just another example of how much we are living on grace fumes.
Yes. Really, that's the
Aren't
best way
we?
to describe it.
Grace fumes, the grace of God, the mercy of God, just the fumes. We're so far over into overtime. We're in overtime. Yeah, overtime, for a major war, a major confrontation. And every day that goes by, it is by the grace of God that we're living one more day without this world war. Why is God holding it off? Because there are lost souls.
Yes.
There's no other reason. There are billions of people who are not ready to end their life on this planet. That's the only reason. Satan comes to kill, steal, and destroy. Satan wants a war. God doesn't want a war. God's not bringing a war. Satan's bringing war. Your Heavenly Father does not want to punish people. He desires to save people, love people. It's Satan, your imposter father, who wants to kill everybody, because if they die without Christ, they are eternally damned to the lake of fire. That's why he's trying to bring about this war. That's why I'm so much against war. But I'm sharing this with you every day, and Doc, the reason Doc and I come out here every day with this information is to show you how close we are to this kind of global destruction. And it should motivate every believer in Christ to get busy, to do your share, your part.
Yes.
Every one of us, we have a role to play in the Great Commission. Nobody is exempt from the Great Commission to go into all the world. And either you go or you send. You got to be involved. You can't be sitting on the bleachers watching the Great Commission. That won't work. On Judgment Day, that excuse just won't sell. You have to be involved in the Great Commission. And so many church members are just spectators. They're just watching it. And that excuse is not going to work on Judgment Day. You have to be able to say, this is what I did for you, Father. This is what I did. I did all that I could do to help with the Great Commission to spread the gospel of the kingdom of God into all nations, that people would be saved and be baptized and made disciples. That's what this is all about. It's not about politics, not about elections. Right. It's about a kingdom. And the only thing I think about every day, and I know Doc's the same way because we talk to each other throughout the day. We both of us, we have a kingdom mindset. What else could I do today, Lord, to help your kingdom? And I encourage you to think the same way. Thank you for supporting us. Pray for us. Pray for this area of Florida,
yes,
that this hurricane will either turn away from the coast or weaken, and that if it's just a tropical storm, that's fine. A lot of rain's not going to hurt us, but we don't need a hurricane. And also pray for our entire team of TruNews supporters and the TruNews production team and Doc and I as we travel to Jordan. And we will be coming to you tomorrow night from New York City. And then let's see, Wednesday, we'll be coming to you from JFK Airport. We're going to just do a brief show from the airport because we're leaving. Is it the morning? I forget. I think it's or in the afternoon. I don't know.
I think it's in the afternoon.
All right,
so.
I'll be there. All right,
We'll be there.
And then Thursday's program will be from Amman, Jordan.
Right.
Love you very much. We'll see you tomorrow.
God bless you.